Today the film is about Samira. Samira, a young woman full of ambition, has just finished her university studies in Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia. Before leaving for an isolated village in order to begin her career as a teacher there, she says her goodbyes to her family. Upon her arrival at the village, Samira meets the local children who seem disappointed by their former teachers. However, over time, she realizes that the real problem does not come from the children, but rather from the fact that the neighboring village is subjected to military attacks. Samira tries to contact her family to make sure that they are well, but she receives no response. She then decides to send them letters. During the following days, she also notices that some villagers avoid her. The next morning, Samira is awakened by screams. Looking through the window, she sees that armed soldiers have taken control of the area. Samira tries to quickly pack her most precious belongings, but suddenly, an armed soldier bursts into her house. She tries to be polite and offers him something to drink, but he shows no interest and orders her to gather her things and join the other inhabitants of the village. Samira joins the rest of the population in a church. Soon, the leader of the soldiers arrives and orders the men to go outside. Despite the desperate attempts of a mother to hold on to her children, they submit to the captain's orders. To their great horror, the men are taken into the street and shot mercilessly. Then Samira and the other women are forced to board buses that will take them far from there. During the journey, Samira watches the soldiers set fire to the houses of the village as if he were trying to erase all trace of what had happened. Arrived in a vast clearing, the women are forced to sleep on the bare ground and try to recover from the horrors they have witnessed. The next morning, the soldiers wake up and begin their daily activities as if nothing had happened. Everyone must obey because the soldiers seem unstable and ready to kill anyone who opposes them with resistance. Despite the shortage of food, Samira, with her generous heart, shares a part of her food with the hungry children. When she notices that one of the women is in a critical state and unconscious, she asks if there is anyone who has medical knowledge and who could help her. However, a nurse advises her that it is better for her to ignore the horrors that they are enduring. Over time, the women begin to adapt to the difficult conditions of the camp, having nothing else to do but take care of the children. During the night, other trucks loaded with soldiers arrive and immediately begin to search the prisoners. The next day, Samira notices that soldiers choose certain girls and take them into a neighboring house. Alarmed by what she sees, she tries to avoid the soldiers and stays near the nurse. 2 days later, one of the soldiers returns to the camp and calls Samira by her name. Even if she pretends not to hear him, she has no other choice but to follow him to the house. There she finds 3 men who order her to undress. As she hesitates, one of them tears off her clothes and he begins to assault her. In this horrible situation, Samira tries to escape mentally by focusing on an insect crawling on the wall. However, the soldiers do not stop there. He continues until she feels that her soul observes her suffering and looks for a way to help her. Later, she wakes up in a different place, surrounded by women and girls who have suffered the same fate. They are forced to perform household chores, while the younger ones are treated as the property of the soldiers who can do whatever they want. Samira notices a little girl among the women and takes care of her, trying to comfort her. Suddenly, a soldier appears and takes her away. This time, she finds herself facing a very young soldier who seems not to know what to do. She fears what will happen again, but to her great surprise, the soldier turns out to be the kindest of them all. He simply holds her in his arms and stays by her side, sleeping without doing anything else. The next day, another soldier arrives and takes one of the girls, claiming that she is the sister of one of his friends. But it is a lie. When the young girl returns the next day, she is covered in injuries. Samira and the nurse try to take care of her, but her health worsens day by day until one morning they discover she is dead. The soldiers take her body and bury it as if nothing had happened. This plunges Samira into despair, convinced that they will all die in this camp. Determined to regain a semblance of identity, she decides that at least she will live her last days in peace with her appearance. Despite her deep depression, her fellow captives warn her that this could attract the soldiers' attention, but Samira no longer cares. One day, Samira is taken to the captain's office. He seems attracted to her and wants to get to know her better. The man treats her kindly because he understands that she is there by mistake and that she does not belong to the inhabitants of the village. When Samira notices a photo on his desk, she tries to ask him questions about his family, but he does not answer. She then prepares herself for him, choosing a red dress as if she were going out with an admirer and eager to get to know the young captain. Although the other women fear that this relationship may end in tragedy, Samira is taken to the man's house where he offers her food and drink, treating her with respect. However, she remains cautious, fearing a sudden change in his attitude. She hides in the bathroom, closing the door behind her. Eventually, she returns to him and they share a pleasant moment together. When she tries to inquire about her situation, he refuses to reveal anything to her. After spending the night with him, Samira returns to her cell and the idea of escaping begins to take root in her mind, especially after noticing an unguarded area. However, she quickly abandons this idea when she spots a soldier nearby. The next day, she meets the captain again, who now shows more empathy toward her and allows her to use the bathroom to relax. When she comes out, he talks to her about his son. Samira takes advantage of the romantic atmosphere to discreetly steal painkillers and give them to the other prisoners. Over time, it becomes evident that the man has fallen in love with her. However, all the women agree that if any of them had the chance, she would kill any soldier who fell into her hands. The next morning, Samira wakes up to the sound of gunshots. That night, she visits the captain and sees the bodies of the killed soldiers, those who had hurt her. While she is still in his room, he suddenly receives an urgent mission and leaves, trusting her enough to leave her alone. Samira tries to contact her family, but without success. Suddenly, she hears a gunshot. Looking through the window, she sees that the captain has shot one of the prisoners. He returns and tries to remind her that she is a prisoner, even though he does not use violence against her. Over time, the number of prisoners decreases and executions become commonplace. One day, an elderly woman asks Samira to help another prisoner who attempted to end her life after losing her daughter. The next day, the women are surprised when the soldiers begin putting them on buses to take them away from the camp. Samira hopes for a change, but she is stunned when the captain asks her to stay, telling her that he wants to tell her something important. He then surprises her by announcing that the war is over and that she is now free. He says goodbye to her, gives her money and her belongings. During the journey, Samira sadly observes the city completely devastated. The bus stops, and the women must continue on foot to cross a river. They walk together until they manage to cross the border and finally return to their town. It is only at that moment that they truly feel free. Shortly after, Samira goes to see a doctor and discovers that she is pregnant. It is clear that the child is the captain's. She decides to terminate her pregnancy, but the doctor warns her that it could put her life in danger. Eventually, Samira returns home and her parents are delighted to see her alive, but devastated to learn that she is pregnant with one of the enemy soldiers' child. In the end, Samira gives birth to a boy and decides to leave him at the orphanage. However, after seeing an old photo of herself as a child with her family, she changes her mind and decides to raise the child, even though he will always remind her of the darkest days of her life. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more similar content. Thank you for watching.